Dynamite
All
Download.
right, welcome to Dynamite Download. We got a special edition as we head into Full Gear weekend. SPD and I, we just had to get back together because we were just so geeked out about this show. And we realized when we were talking on Dynamite Download on Wednesday night that we just had so much we want to say about this card because it's
Yeah.
just absolutely stacked. I got to say, I was second row at All Out in Chicago, and my excitement level for this show is probably just as high as it was for
Wow.
that.
That says
And
a
and I'm
lot.
going to be sitting on my couch over there watching it. I won't be wearing a mask. I'll be hanging out at the house, relaxing in the comfort of my own home. And I am incredibly geeked about this show just because the
Wow.
card SPD is just from we talked about it all week, man. The card is just so stacked, right, brother?
That is. And I think it is the most stacked AEW pay-per-view or show we have ever seen, with all four titles on the line, some other matches that have some interesting stipulations, and it is just going to be an outstanding nonstop show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a great point by you, right? All the matches in this week's weekend show have some juice behind them. They either
Yeah.
have a title associated with them, or there's just a feud or just hype beyond belief, a dream matchup
Yeah.
that I can't wait to talk about later on. There's just so much to get into. So let's jump in right away. Let's waste no more time. Let's get
Yeah.
right into it. There's a lot that we want to say in a little bit of time. So the first match of the night that we're going to cover is Orange Cassidy, freshly squeezed, going up against the recruitment specialist, Johnny Huggy, John Silver from the Dark Order. First, I'm going to start off with SPD. You jump in here, brother. What are you thinking here between what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is the outcome that's going to happen at Full Gear? And then what do you want to happen in this match?
Off the bat, I think Orange Cassidy is going to win. I'm happy to see John Silver getting more and more TV time, like we talked about on Dynamite Download. And I'm more excited that this got moved to the main card.
Yeah.
John Silver has been awesome on BTE. His energy is like no one else, and he's got some great moves in the ring. And so I just want this to be – I don't want this to be a squash match or necessarily a rushed match. Granted, not every match in the card is going to be able to get 15, 20-plus minutes, but this could open the show at a high energy level. So I'm really excited for it. I don't think anything really much is going to come out of it after the fact. There isn't really that much bad blood, let's say, between the Best Friends and the Dark Order. So I think it's almost just going to be a clean win by Orange Cassidy and just be a nice kickoff show match or kickoff match of the card.
It certainly does feature two of the more popular, buzzworthy guys in the internet wrestling community for AEW. I mean, John Silver has a groundswell of support. A lot of people love him. I've actually come around on the Dark Order solely because of the work that they've done on BTE, and John Silver was a huge part of that. You got to catch that stuff. It's some of the most hilarious wrestling-related content you'll find anywhere. And then obviously we all know that Orange Cassidy is just he's a star on the AEW show. For me, I do think that Orange Cassidy is going to come out on top on this one, and I think that's actually a really great idea and decision by AEW. We at the Dynamite Download team have talked quite a bit about how Cassidy was almost booked into a corner. He lost to Brody Lee and then lost back-to-back matches against Cody for the TNT title. So he's kind of had a losing streak of late. So I do think it's a really great idea by the AEW team to get a win on Freshly Squeezed and put him over somebody who has some credibility and some love from the fans, and will ultimately feel like a big win for him. So I do agree with that concept. That's what I want to see happen. I do want to see Orange Cassidy come on top. I think Orange is in a position now, thanks to his feud with Jericho, that wins and losses kind of affect him a little bit more than they will for a John Silver. Right. So I think that's the right call. As far as bold predictions go, I'm going to throw this out there. I know you said that you don't really think that much of consequence will come of this. All week I've been wondering if and when impacts of certain wrestlers are going to happen on Full Gear. Miro talks about it in the advertisement, who's going to make the next big moment. And so I've been really wondering, are we going to see Lance Archer on the show? Where are we going to see Team Taz? We talked about that. And here is a possibility for me to see maybe Brody Lee come back, right? Brody could come in and ultimately be disappointed in the way that the Dark Order has performed while he's been gone. They've been on TV. We saw the main event. They lost to the Gun Club and Cody. So that could be a potential. I'm going to keep my eyes open. Potentially Brody Lee. We desperately want to see him, right?
For sure.
So that's a possibility. Going into the next match, we're kind of pivoting to something that's been far more brutal, has far more history. Sammy and Matt Hardy have had really a back and forth that's dated back months now. And some of the more violent, bloody affairs on AEW television, period. I know that we just talked about Brody and how he did have that dog collar match with Cody, which was pretty vicious. But seeing what Matt Hardy and Sammy have gone through, Matt getting a concussion, both those guys getting busted open. Sammy's been really great at posting on social media about how that feud has impacted him and kind of pushed him to another level. What are your thoughts on this one? Who do you think is going to win this one? I think this is really kind of a 50-50 shot. I think there's a lot of I think groundswell is more Matt Hardy, right? Are you on board with that? What do you think, SPD?
I think Matt Hardy has to win this match after everything that happened, leading up to his injury and all that thing. And so for him to come out on top, a clean, healthy win, and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard them talking on Dynamite that this is going to be at the Hardy compound.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So I think that for all those people who want to see a little bit more fun and a little bit more creativity, what Matt Hardy brings, that could be a whole new world. That could be a really cool experience.
Yeah, and I think this will be a very entertaining match on that sense of an originality, and to see the different side of Matt Hardy. He'll probably get some different personalities, so I think it'll be overall entertaining. I don't think Sammy will go over Matt, especially at the Hardy compound. Sammy's a great wrestler, and he's well deservedly so. But I don't think Matt goes down at the Hardy compound, especially in an deletion match. And I'll be fine once this match is over and this feud kind of closes the book and moves on. It would be hard not to see some kind of inner circle interference, but I think they would probably save most of that to the Jericho match if this is going to be offsite on the Hardy compound.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to it. And another one of those just overall entertaining matches. It won't be a show stealer, I don't think, but it will be fun to watch.
Yeah, for me, I think we just got to see Sammy perform and he was one of the stars of this week's Dynamite. As soon as he got the tag in from Ortiz, he just came in like a ball of fire. Right. And so I do think that it is nice to see what Sammy's capable of. I do think that there's going to be a little bit more violence and brutality to this one. Obviously, there'll be some humor. We can only expect the unexpected when it comes to Matt Hardy and his creative mind. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of cool stuff involved there. But, I'm going to say Sammy up to this point has put a lot of, stakes on this match as far as the intensity of it. So I do think that Matt Hardy's going to win. It's obviously on his home turf. But I want Sammy to win just because I do think that Sammy is the young star. I think that he's obviously he could use a win. He lost the last matchup against Matt Hardy, and he's certainly been kind of the antagonizer of this feud.
Right.
So it would be good to see kind of him get the upper hand. That said, I just think it's going to be more one of those matches. It's going to be entertaining. Yeah. I do question where it's going to go for both these characters after that match. So I am intrigued, SPD, on if there's interference or what happens at the Hardy compound. Does it scar Sammy for good and change him a different way? I can't wait to see that. Speaking of that, we talked about inner circle interference, and we did talk about change. There's a lot of change for the inner circle on the line here at Full Gear when it comes to Jericho and MJF. Those two guys going head-to-head are going to really bring the house down. And to me, that's one of those matches. We talk about dream matches. I certainly talk a lot about the dream match between the Young Bucks and FTR. But MJF and Jericho going head-to-head, now, this is a dream match for anybody who loves entertaining. It's really, for me, it's one of those – it's almost like that movie Looper where Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are in it, where you see the two different versions of the same guy going head-to-head. It's pretty awesome storytelling thus far. And in my in my column on Crayfish Corner, I talked a lot about the psychology that's going on here recently with Jericho getting under MJF's skin, and MJF sort of being used to the one who's always kind of being that guy, stealing the show and kind of getting under people's skin and being the antagonist. I think it's been really a great mind game between these two, and I'm certainly excited for it. SPD, who do you think is going to win this? And I know I don't even really need to ask this. You want Jericho to win, right? I know you're a diehard Jericho guy.
I am, obviously, inner circle right here. But I think and want both Jericho to win. I think Jericho can't afford back-to-back pay-per-view losses. I guess that would go to the case for MJF as well. But the whole MJF joining the inner circle, I can't see that happening. This is where I talk about where possibly Wardlow – I was hoping they'd plant more of a Wardlow turn on MJF's seed on Dynamite, which they didn't. It's going to be interesting. It's not going to be a clean match. There's going to be some interference. I'm sure of. Maybe you'll see some more Hager and Wardlow face to face, but I can imagine something off the wall happening. But Jericho's got to come out on top. He's got to prove that he is the leader of the inner circle, and he's not going to let this younger version of himself essentially take over. Or you go on the flip kind and go to the extreme, like I predicted a few weeks ago, how MJF does win and takes over the inner circle. Jericho starts going anti-inner circle, eventually turns babyface, and then the crowd is even screaming Judas even more.
Wow.
So,
wow. The fantasy booking happening here at Dynamite Download, we're here to please everybody. One way or the other, we're going to make sure you're happy. So, I think SPD, this match, it's not a surprise that you have all sorts of outcomes that could make you happy. I think that's because when you pair these guys up together, it's just been gold. The television's been really great. I know that there's been some vocal critics about sort of the comedy and some of the things that have happened in the build-up to this match. But when you really look at the players involved, they're all aces. We've really gotten a chance to see more of Wardlow and that interaction between him and MJF. It's only highlighted how good both those guys are, how young they both are, and just how much potential those two have. And then really, I think that this has brought out a better side of Jericho. Certainly more recently kind of pushing MJF's buttons. And I do think I agree with you. I think that he's going to be put into he talked about it on Dynamite this week about having that edge, being a little crazy, being willing to go to places, dark places to win matches. And I think that that's going to be a good thing. I think that we need to see the Painmaker again. I know Jericho's been Le Champion, the demo god. He's been really, quite a joke. And, falling into the vat of mimosa is not what I want to see as far as the parting memory of Jericho. I think that, bringing that Painmaker persona back, like you said, establishing why he is who he is, right? He's not just here to crack jokes all the time. I think Jericho needs a little bit more credibility. We've talked about how he and Hager have struggled at times to put away teams that they shouldn't have in the past. I think a definitive win for Jericho would be something that would go a long way. And obviously he could get the win here off of some interference by the inner circle. But I think that would be a great choice. It is interesting that we're both predicting Jericho to win here, given that I think the favorite might be that MJF wins this, right? I mean, they've certainly been playing into what will happen if they do join up. So that's interesting. I can't wait to see at Full Gear. This one could really go either way, and whatever way it goes, much like the FTR and Young Bucks match, whatever way it goes, there are major consequences to what's going to happen in the weekly programming after that, right? If MJF ends up winning and gets onto the team with Inner Circle, how does that impact that team, right? How does that what ends up happening between him and Jericho about as far as the alpha male? And then if he ends up losing, right, is that because of Wardlow? Does that further that fire between those two guys?
Right.
Does that lead to more feuds down the road between MJF and Jericho, right? There's a lot there that we can sink our teeth into. So I can't wait. I think this is going to be a preview of some awesome things to come. Speaking of that, though, right, awesome things to come. I think that the TNT title has really set the bar when it comes to, introducing great weekly matches to Dynamite, being sort of the backbone of what we as viewers can recognize and sort of expect week to week. Cody has done a great job as far as making that sort of the belt of Dynamite that we as fans get to see every single week. And really, we wouldn't have Eddie Kingston. We certainly would not be in a position right now where we have the potential of seeing what Darby can do if he wins this match. The TNT title has been established as one that is really pivotal for this brand.
Right.
What do you think's going to happen in this match? Who do you think comes out on top, the underdog Darby Allin or the Prince of Professional Wrestling?
I'd said it a few weeks ago, and I continue to stand by it. Darby's losing steam in my eyes, and him just getting ragdolled nonstop. He's not a champ right now. He will be in the future, I agree, but he produces some great promos. He's got some interesting, fun moves. He's easy to like, the anti-hero.
I have to interject here. Do you think that could change quickly, right? And so I have to ask, right? There's been a lot of conversation about Sting potentially showing up at this pay-per-view. Could this be a moment where Sting helps Darby Allin and helps him win this match? Perhaps we see Arn Anderson try to get involved like he did in Cody's match against Orange Cassidy on Dynamite, right? A lot of people haven't talked about how Arn Anderson threw that punch and hit Orange Cassidy that sent him into the crossroads that cost him the match. But what if Arn Anderson tries to do the same thing and Sting helps Darby? Would Sting's injection into this match potentially get Darby over that hump and kind of give him that rub and that star power, given that their personalities are so alike and sort of their presentation at this point is so alike? Would that be something that would kind of change your perspective on how that match could go?
It definitely would help, but then it kind of goes against Darby being a loner, or is Sting his magical father figure? You could totally see that. But I think Darby's in a weird point right now.
Yeah.
I think Cody wins, and I want Cody to win because I think he's strong with the title and he does the title well. He has great matches with it, and I don't think it's ready for him to drop it that quickly again. A lot could happen.
Title change.
I think Brody can come here. This is where you can see Team Taz. So this is where Darby, I think, is in a weird situation. He's got this title match, and if he does win, I guess then instantly he goes a feud with Team Taz. You could have, I don't know, there's some weird situations where he's kind of all over the place. On Dark, a few weeks ago, I watched him wrestle, and he struggled with, quote unquote, a jobber a little bit. So he still came out on top. So I can't imagine him beating Cody at this point without some assistance. But I'm not ready for him to hold the title.
I think that you make a great point. That Darby could still look great in this match, but come up short for reasons that are out of his control, right? You bringing up Team Taz, we've really been wondering, ever since Taz dropped that freaking awesome promo on Dynamite,
yes.
Ever since he came out on fire like that, we've really been wondering where will Team Taz make that FTW statement. And this matchup makes the most sense, right? You could interject Brian Cage trying to going after Cody and potentially going after the TNT championship. Meanwhile, also serving the need of furthering the Ricky Starks and Darby Allin feud. They could just ruin this whole match. That could be something that could be really cool. Those guys come out there and just interfere and beat them both down, right? Ruin the match. But I certainly do see that Ricky Starks has promised to get back at Darby, and this would be a great opportunity for them to get involved, potentially cost Darby the match, continue the potential push for Darby down the road without losing too much credibility with, the understanding that he lost because of interference, right? So I think that could be a good play there. I do think that Cody's going to come out on top. I don't see Darby coming out on this one with the title. Unfortunately, I just don't think that he's ready yet.
Right.
There were times with Darby earlier on that I thought that they should have maybe struck while the iron was hot. There were very few people in the company that were as hot as he was at the time.
Yeah.
But right now, what Cody represents, he is the bar. What Cody represents is that, he is the flag bearer of Dynamite, of TNT. And I think that it's going to take more than what Darby can throw at him this weekend to knock that off, knock him off his throne. I just don't see it.
I could see like that interference with Team Taz and then Cody and Darby teaming up, kind of like the Moxley thing where they went head to head, and then fighting Team Taz a couple matches, get a little mini feud of a tag match that way. Kind of cheap booking in a way, but Cody come out on top. Yep. They shake hands out of respect, and then they will take on Team Taz eventually somehow down the line.
Maybe add Darby Allin to the Nightmare family. It seems like everybody else is under it. So
no, I don't like that part.
But speaking of nightmares, I do think that Shida might be having some nightmares of the native beast. Nyla Rose versus Shida is going to be the women's championship match at Full Gear. As our resident women's division fanboy at Dynamite Download, what are your thoughts on this one, brother? Tell me what's your take on this matchup?
I think it's time to change up the title for the women's division. You got to stir the pot and just kind of, because it's stale right now, in my opinion.
It is.
So, and not much is going on. We were high on Britt Baker, and then all of a sudden she goes dark for a few weeks and just has a mini segment at the town hall.
Yep.
I think you put it on Nyla and you have Vicky. You have some TV worthy segments no matter what.
Totally agree.
So I think Nyla wins, and I hope she wins, and I think it will be a well fought match. Nothing spectacular. Hopefully we'll get an elite from me, but we'll see. Not holding my breath.
This could be it. This could be a first in the history of Dynamite Download. I will say, if any match to this point is going to get it, this probably could be it, just because their styles are going to mesh really well together. Unfortunately, if Nyla is throwing forearms like she did on Dynamite, it's going to look a little rough. Nyla needs to recognize and come into this matchup that Shida can take it. Nyla doesn't have a lot of people on this roster who can take her offense. I understand trying to be mindful of your opponent's well-being while trying to beat them, but I just think that Nyla needs to come out, full force on this matchup. No reservations. Go all out at it, because Shida is a hard striker. Shida is somebody who I understand has lost some fans as far as her inability to really captivate an audience from a personality perspective. She'll get there. There are people in professional wrestling who have overcome the language barrier and done great things. Right. Shida has nothing to be ashamed of. She's been a great champion, put on some really good matches, and has a lot of talent. I do think that she's going to put on a great match with Nyla. I think that those two, with Shida's striking ability and Nyla's, sheer size and strength, I think that those two could really put on a surprisingly good match at Full Gear. But I want Nyla to come, guns a-blazing. I want her to show, that anger that was that Vicky has really been pushing on right. Dark, and now we saw on Dynamite, right? Vicky is a star on the microphone. She has been for decade plus, 2 decades. She's incredible on the microphone.
So annoying.
Instant heat magnet. So good.
Yes.
And I think that Nyla needs to really bring it and kind of represent in the ring like Vicky does on the mic. I think that, like you said, that is a great recipe for future success in the women's division on Dynamite moving forward. I think that,
for sure,
out of all the titles that are up for grabs tonight, I do think that the women's division is going to be the one that is most likely to change hands. I agree with you.
Yep.
So, no rest for the wicked. We're talking about titles, and it's like nonstop on this card. I'm telling you guys, the card is just stacked. We went from, the TNT title to the women's title, and now we're jumping right into the tag championships, which I'm automatically just my heart's fluttering. I'm so excited about this match. I've been looking forward to this for a long, long time, and it's more than just the guys in the ring. It's a real battle of different approaches to the business. It's a battle of, the old school, no fists or no flips, just fists, just like that old school, like hardcore respect for the business approach that FTR brings versus two guys that take pride in killing the business. They have a book that you have to check out that is titled as that, right? The Young Bucks are well known for, in some ways being called spot monkeys. They're exact opposite of FTR. Now, I don't think that the Young Bucks are spot monkeys. I argued that last week on Dynamite Download with how Matt Jackson sold that ankle injury, and quite frankly, we might not even be having this match this weekend if FTR had followed through with their beatdown after the Dynamite Download, or after the Dynamite match against Private Party.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts going into this one? Feel free to cut me off here because I could just talk the rest of the night about this match.
I'm so torn with this one, honestly. If there was no stipulation that they added, which I don't think was necessary, I think FTR would take this no problem. Not no problem, but I would feel confident with them winning. But because of the stipulation, which I completely disagree with, I really
controversial.
I want the Young Bucks to win because I don't want them to never challenge for the title again. That seems just bizarre and unnecessary, in my opinion. But FTR has had some awesome momentum. You've really turned me on to being a big fan of them and their styles. And I think they are stronger with the belts too. They're more important with the belts. Their heel characters are escalated with the belts. And so for them to drop them would be tough, but I also don't want the Young Bucks to lose. So
this is a real tough one, SPD. I'm right there with you. And again, me being such a fan of FTR, it's hard for me to want to ever see them lose.
I know.
I do think that they're incredible champions. They do a really great job at playing the heel. They know what it takes to make compelling television, not just in segments, but in matches. They know how to play the crowd. They know how to interact with their opponents in a way that really is captivating television and goes back to all the tried and true tricks that make this business as successful as it's been, something that we've watched since we were little kids. So,
right.
I think that I'm with you. FTR with the title belts, I feel like FTR needs the belts more than the Young Bucks need the belts to be relevant.
Right.
And that's not a slam on FTR, but when you're a heel tag team, it's usually better that they're the ones on top. I personally think that having, the underdog good guys trying to overcome the bad guys is the more compelling story. Now, I'm torn on this because I'm right there with you because I don't want to see FTR lose, but at the same time, I do think that this added stipulation, the tag division without the Young Bucks, we have to remember they haven't been tag team champions to this point.
I know.
So, the tag division in AEW has not struggled or suffered without them being tag team champions. Quite honestly, I think that the tag division has been the strength of AEW to this point, and I hope that it continues to be featured on AEW moving forward. So I can understand the thought process that, this division is so deep. SPD, we've talked about that. Teams like the Lucha Bros, teams like Butcher and the Blade, the Natural Nightmares. There are so many teams that don't really get television time. You could even put Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, Team Taz, as a tag team. You could see that out there, right? There's so many teams that are in this division that I understand. Maybe you don't give the Young Bucks the championships. Maybe they're so over and so established that they don't need them ever. But I just think that takes a lot of steam off of potential storylines for them in the future.
Right.
And given how young AEW is, I think it would be a major mistake to put them in that corner. Knowing that the Young Bucks are two of the most bankable stars in the entire company, I think that it would be a good decision to get that on that. And I also think we haven't talked about this yet, but if Cody retains his TNT title, the Young Bucks win the tag titles, and then Kenny or Hangman ends up winning the world title, all of a sudden you have the entire elite being the elite of the show.
That would be great.
Having all the belts. And I think that's something that hasn't been talked about, guys. And I think that, we've seen for the first year the elite kind of take the back burner, allow other stars to get shine, get established. This might be a turning point. Full Gear.
I hope so.
We might come back to Full Gear next year and see this was the turning point where the elite dominated Dynamite.
They shifted it into a higher gear.
shifted it into a different gear. I really think that this could be it, right? Because all of a sudden you have, Cody, you have the Young Bucks as tag champs, and then, I know we're going to get into this later on in the show, but the Hangman Page and Omega match is that's going to be something else, right? And we think that Kenny Omega is going to be hard to beat.
I think with the tag thing, real quick, I think this is going to be the best storytelling match of the night. The biggest highs and lows, the most false finishes. I think you're going to be on the edge of your seat the most in this one. I know you will.
Yeah, I will.
I think this will have the best storytelling match.
That's surprising to me to hear you say that. And the main reason why is because the next match, Moxley versus Kingston in that I Quit match, has been just absolute compelling Macbeth, Shakespeare-worthy stuff. I mean, literally, some of these promos that have been cut, last week, Kingston, it felt like he was literally ripping his heart out and holding it out there for us to see beat. The torment that he was able to convey, the conviction that he was able to convey. This has been a really passionate feud. And Moxley, I have to say, like we posted some images on our Instagram page this week. How Moxley really has been through this feud, has been reminded of his own journey and what could have been in his life.
Right.
Who he could have been. He could have been the bitter, passed over guy like Kingston, who has a hard time looking at himself in the mirror because of what he's willing to do to become champion. Moxley's road could have gone one way. So in a lot of ways, this is the mirror images of each other. I think that this has brought out a different side of Moxley and reminded us of the old school CZW days of John Moxley as a fiery kid, being literally willing to take, cheese graters to the forehead just to be able to make a name for himself. This is a kid who came from nothing in Cincinnati, Ohio, and has now married an incredible woman, had an incredible career, been named as the best pro wrestler in the world. And, now he has a guy who was his buddy 20 years ago throwing arrows at him and trying to tear him down. I feel like this storytelling, especially given that it's going to be an I Quit match at SPD, this is going to be one of those matches. I don't know who quits. I really don't know who quits.
I'm 50-50 on this. Hearing Kingston on the mic so much, he's very emotional, and you feel it. You believe it 100%. And so I'm behind Kingston. What I think is going to happen, Moxley will win. What I hope happens is Kingston, just a little sense of me, but what I think there will be more post-match seeds planted, feuds. This is where my prediction was months ago, where Pac comes back and essentially puts his foot on the neck of Kingston, and trying to get his death triangle back, and then you start an awesome feud with the Death Triangle and Butcher and Blade. And
can you imagine that? Oh,
that would be amazing. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about Pac and Eddie Kingston, like them going at each other.
Yeah.
Now we're talking, brother. I think that would be incredible.
So I think Mox takes it, though.
I understand what you're saying. I think it's hard. Right now I think Moxley has been and continues to be such a reliable force in AEW, to the point that sometimes I've gotten frustrated with just how reliable he is. I think that sometimes I view him as the John Cena of AEW, just because he's so, he has been established as the guy.
Right.
And so it does make you wonder, is Kingston going to be able to dethrone such a dominant champion? I've pondered about that a lot this week. I really feel like, to me, the promo from Moxley, where he essentially this week, he kind of reminded Kingston, what if all this barking, all this resentment, all this anger got you the opportunity that you wanted, and then you blow it. And you have to look yourself in the mirror and realize that you're not as good as you think you are. That like, I'm telling you, man, I mean, Moxley came at Kingston, and I know Kingston's been getting it. So I was reminded of why Jon Moxley is the man that he is. That dude is a beast on the mic too. He doesn't get the credit that he should. So I think that he's going to win, and I think that it's ultimately going to lead to, Kenny Omega and Mox again, which I think would be great. And I do think that dude, you said it months ago, and I think that I got to give you some props here. If this ends up happening, I'm going to start calling you Nostradamus.
We got to rewind, go back to the episodes and see where I called it out.
You did, man. You called this, and I think, especially not knowing when Pac was going to show up, if ever, with Corona, that was a bold statement by you. So I think if that ends up happening at the end, no one can be upset with how the match turns out. But that all hinges on really what we were talking about with the number one contender match, where that could go. Who do you think wins between former tag team partners, two former members of the Elite, truly guys that we've been used to the last year, seeing these guys as partners in the ring defending the championship belts. Who do you think wins this one, SPD?
Kenny Omega. This is probably the match I'm looking most forward to from start to finish, because I know Kenny's going to have some amazing entrance.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait for that. And I think it will be a well-fought match, and it could steal the show in terms of just overall wrestling ability in the ring.
Yeah.
The storytelling will be great, and the finish is going to be great, and it's just going to be a lot of, hands over your face, screaming in awe, like what's happening. So I'm really, really excited for this. Kenny should and will win, and then eventually will dethrone the next champion and finally get the gold around his waist in AEW.
I like it. I mean, your fantasy booking doesn't sound bad to me, man. I'll say this. Certainly Hangman has a more fragile psyche heading into this match. Kenny is heading into this match with uber confidence. I don't know how. I mean, the guy is starting to recognize who he is and just how damn good he is. And I think he's showing the world, why he's going to be the next world champion. I can't disagree with you on that. I do think that it's going to be interesting given the stakes involved in this match. The last match and this match, just talking about the stakes, how far are these guys going to push each other? I can really see Moxley and Kingston getting to a level where we just, in an I Quit format, that going to be something that is going to, what kind of violence are we going to see? I could really see Omega and Hangman really pushing themselves to another level, having to dig deep to take the other guy down. Because, I mean, if anything, I'll say this. Yes, Kenny Omega is operating on another level right now. The guy is absolutely incredible. But Hangman Page has shown time and again how resilient he is. The guy might stumble, he might fall, but he keeps getting back up. His performances in the world title tournament was a perfect example of that.
Yep.
We loved that match against Wardlow. It's one of my favorite matches on Dynamite in recent memory.
Very good.
So I think that match is going to really, like you said, has potential to steal the show, just given the nature of the competitors, the depth of their relationship, how far that goes, the ramifications that come out of it. It's going to be a huge, huge match. So, I mean, personally, I think that this one is going to set the tone. We just talked about it. The last two matches really are going to shape the world title picture. But guys and gals, Dynamite Download Nation, this Full Gear card from top to bottom, as you can tell, we are incredibly excited. We hope that you watch this weekend so that we can talk more about it on Twitter, and then obviously talk more about it on Wednesday after we see the follow-up show. So until next time, everybody, get on that social media, get engaged with us. We'll talk to you guys then. Enjoy the show this weekend, everybody.
Can't wait.